Welcome to Battle Rankings.
Welcome to Battle Rankings Live. But it's the podcast. I'm Svetlana, and today I'm joined with John. And we're going to be talking about everything you need to know before you play your first game. Uh, Consider this the next installation to our new players series. Um, and typically, John accompanies me or I'm accompanying John to whatever I play games. And coming up, I'm gonna be some recording for some fun episodes coming up that I think the listeners will really like. Um, and I'll be playing a game by myself without you helping me out every 5 minutes.
That typically helps, you know, a little
You,
bit.
oh, you helping me?
I give you advice and then you get mad because I gave you advice. So yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Um, so what's everything that I need to know how to do by myself, like an adult, before I play this first game by myself?
Well, first you need a friend. That's the most important thing is you need somebody willing to play the game with you.
Well, I have a friend.
I know. I'm just letting you know. That's for the people listening that you need a friend to play with. Preferably somebody you can kidnap and force to play. But
This is on YouTube. We cannot condone that violence.
all joking aside, once you have a friend, willing or not, to play a game with you, I would suggest getting one of the starter boxes like Kursk, um, Stalingrad, Hit the Beach, or the one of the Africa sets because they're roughly $60. You get two decent sized armies for two players. You gets dice, the rule books, and there's objective markers on the box that you can cut out. Like it's a full complete set, and you get a decent sized game that you can play. You don't need a 6x4 table. You can just use cardboard boxes or something like that. And and the games are small enough that you can get them done pretty fast because there's a lot of models in there, but there's not too many that you're trying to figure out all what everything does. And there's a great to learn how to play the game. There's a great once you read through the rule book, there's a reference card on the back of the rule book that tells you everything you do in order. So in the very top of the page, it's in blue. It tells you what you're checking on your first turn. So you're checking for morale.
And
You're,
this is in the rule book.
this is in the rule book. So you go in order of what it says. You and it tells you exactly what in order to do. So you check all your morales, you check for reinforcements, and you check for airplanes. And then after that, then you do all your movement. And in that reference card, you can also find that on the Battle Rankings website for a printable version. So you can just print out that page by itself. And it'll tell you in order what everything needs to be done for your turn. And that's the biggest help that you can find. Once you've read the rule books, read the rule book first, so that way you get a general understanding before you look at the reference page. And the rule book is also organized in a way that what you're doing first is in the first part of the book, and it's sectioned out so you have all your movement, and you have your shooting, then you have your assault, then your consolidations, all in that order inside the book.
Okay. Do you want to go into detail kind of explaining each movement. I know we'll be talking a little bit about it in the future, in more detail for in this new player series. But just kind of like
So for movement, you have your tactical movement. Well, you have no movement at all, which gives you the best rate of fire because it's a lot easier to stand still and shoot, and you get more shots because you're not moving. Then you have a tactical, which allows you to move a certain number of inches and still be able to shoot or assault that turn. And if you're assaulting, you can't move more than 10 inches, even if you have more than that for tactical. But a tactical still allows you to move and shoot with a reduced rate of fire. Next, you have a train dash, which is not your best movement possible, but it gives you further movement, but you give up all shooting. And it's what you can dash through if you're going through any train whatsoever. If you want to dash and not move through any train, then it's called a cross country dash. That's usually generally the most movement you're going to get unless you have a road on the board. And then you have what's called a road dash, which lets you move the furthest that you can possibly move. But that means you have to have a road on the board, and you can't dash within 8 inches of an enemy. You can dash up to 8 inches, but you can't get closer than 8 inches. And then outside of those movements, you have what are called movement orders. So if you still want to move a little bit and you still want to keep your full rate of fire, you have what's called a blitz, but that requires a skill test. So
and can any unit blitz or is it just specific units?
tanks and infantry can blitz, gun teams cannot.
Okay.
So if it's a anti-tank gun or an artillery piece that is not motorized, it cannot blitz because the only thing those guys can do are dig in and
They have
follow me.
yeah, they have a very short movement. Those are usually best kept in place.
Yep. But you can't use blitz on those. Um, but blitz lets you move 4 inches and still be count as not moving. So you can still move a little bit and still shoot your full rate of fire without having kind of got. But that's a skill test, and when you look on your unit card that comes in those boxes for the two-player starter sets, that those will tell you what their skill tests are because there's a big red box that usually says skill 3 plus, skill 4, or whatever that's on it. Another movement order that is kind of the opposite of that is called a shoot and scoot, where after you've done all your shooting, you make a skill test and then you can move 4 inches and going behind a hill, going behind cover. So it's kind of you come out, you shoot, and then you go back and cover. Germans have a unique ability where they can blitz out, shoot, and then make another skill test to go back behind cover. But only Germans can do two movement orders like that in a turn. Another movement order that can be done for infantry and gun teams is called dig in. And all movement orders except for follow me use a skill test. And on your unit cards you have will have show you what your skill is.
The
Uh,
dog is having an issue with this at the moment.
yep. So so dig in, put your infantry and gun teams into bulletproof cover, even if they're out in the middle of nowhere. So if they're in the middle of the field with no train around, they can dig foxholes and give themselves bulletproof cover from machine guns and all that kind of stuff coming in, trying to hit them. It's like taking out your shovel and digging a quick hole real fast. Um, Next movement order you have is a follow me. So it is one of the only movement orders you can do after doing a dash and allows you to move an extra 4 inches forward. And that is a motivational skill instead. So instead of using a skill, I'll say you're above your skill usually on the card. There is a spot on there that says motivation. So that could be 3, 4, or 5. If they're fearless, they're fearless, motivated, or reluctant. Will be what that dice roll depends on. But that is also on the unit card too. The unit card is going to be your biggest friend for when you're starting out.
Um, can you talk through kind of you said the like you said the unit card's gonna be your biggest friend. So talk through a little bit um how to read the unit card. For players that have played a long time, they know. But if when I read a unit card, I'm like, okay, I know my rate of fire, but to understand the shooting and what is my firepower versus what is uh
Can you pull up an
everything
example?
else. So this is a unit card for a tank.
This is for this example. We'll go over a T-72 for Team Yankee or T-62. My bad. Yeah. So for this card, at the very
You can see the mouse on the screen.
so we go up here. When you look at these black letterings up here, this tells you the special rules that are going to be usually on the back of the card. They'll let you know what that means. So this is the tank formation. So that means a lot of your black box units are going to be tanks. This has a special rule for bazooka skirts. So what that rule says is that anytime a weapon with a 5 up firepower is hitting you on the sides, you have better armor. And then infrared means during night missions, you get to roll 2 dice instead of one when trying to figure out how far you can see. But all unit cards will have black lettering up here that lets you know their special rules, which are found on the back of the card. Now, as we go down, we see the skill, which is a 4 plus. So if they're trying to do any of those movement orders, they're going to be using this number right here. So when they roll a dice, they need a 4, 5, or 6 to pass said skill test. And then for follow me, you come over here to their courage, which is their motivation, which means they need a 3, 4, 5, or 6 to pass that follow me movement order. And then if you get into the assault, this is the dice rolls you would need for that. So during the assault, they need a 5 or a 6 to kill the infantry that they're assaulting, or and when they infantry counterattack, and then you roll to see if you come back into the assault, you need a 3 or higher. So that's where you would find that. And then for if you get bailed out from shooting, you would look for your remount. And then if you're making a last stand test, that's where you would find that also. So this is where you find the majority of your what you're looking for here. Then as we go down, it shows that you are hit on a 3 plus. So when the enemy's shooting at you and you're in the open and close range, they only need a 3 to hit you. And also on the cards, you'll find your armor ratings. So if they're shooting at you from the front, you have a 14. If they have a side shot, it's 9. And if it's artillery, it's going to be a 2. And that's where you'd find your armor, right underneath here. And then on all unit cards, they have this block right here, which shows you your tactical, terrain, cross country, and a road dash, all right here. And then if you're going through terrain, it shows you what you need to roll for a cross check. And then at the bottom of all unit cards, you have your weapons profile. So for here, the main gun has 32 inches, rated fire of 1. Doesn't matter if you're moving or not. And I think 21 with a 2 up firepower. And then in the notes section, it'll tell you the special rules for that. So this has a laser rangefinder, so that means it doesn't suffer the penalty of being more than 16 inches away for long range. And then if you upgrade your unit, you can have a optional missile on there, and that's guided in heat. So that means it doesn't suffer the penalty for being long range for giving the bonus armor to your enemy, and it's guided so it doesn't suffer from long range. Now you can only choose one weapon profile to shoot with at once. So you either shoot with your main gun or you shoot with your machine guns. The same goes for the missile. You either use the missile or you use the main gun. But machine guns can all be shot together. But if you shoot the machine guns, you can't shoot the main gun. And then that's your machine gun profiles. And then you have it tells you what everything is labeled by. So that's your weapons, that's the range you need to be, that's your rate of fire, the anti-tank if you're shooting at a vehicle, and the firepower for trying to kill something that's either dug in or a vehicle.
And then we were talking about movement orders. What's the next phase after movement orders?
Oh, you do your movement orders in the movement phase.
Okay, so like you're done with the movement phase. What do you do next?
After that, you go into your shooting phase.
Okay. Okay, so what's next after movement?
So after you checked all your morale and you've moved everything you want to, next you go into your shooting. So when you look at your reference sheet in the back of the book, or you print it out using the Battle Rankings website, which has a link to it, so you can get a PDF version. You check your range, you check line of sight, and you just go through that everything on there for shooting. You go through that order. You check your range, check line of sight, check for concealment. You declare what's shooting what. So you can split fire. So, for example, if you have two tanks, you can have one tank shoot at one unit and one tank shoot at another unit. And you just follow those steps in order that are on the reference card. And then you select which weapons are firing. So let's say you want to shoot infantry. And you say, I'm going to shoot with this tank machine guns at this infantry platoon. Then you make sure that you can see that target. Yeah, check to see if they're concealed. Did they move? Did they shoot last turn? Blah blah blah. Are they gone to ground? So if they're in the open, they're going to be hit on what their hit on is for the card. So most infantry are, let's say, hit on a 4. So if they're concealed, so they hadn't moved or shot, so they're going to be a +1 to hit. And then if they're gone to ground, it's going to be another +1 to hit. So that makes it a 6 to hit. So then you see how many dice you have by looking at your rate of fire on your card. And then you roll your dice and see if you hit anybody. If you need a higher than a 6 to hit, you must roll a 6 followed by a 5 plus, or to see if you got a 6 or a 7. That happens in rare circumstances, but it does happen where you need a higher than a 6-sided dice, but that's what you need to do if you need anything higher than a 6. You roll a 6 followed by a 5 or a 6.
And so the shooting page actually goes on to the second. Um, I think the thing on these that I find most confusing normally is determining what the saves are.
So for that, you look at what's being shot at, and you pull when you pull up your unit card, you look at what is your front armor. Okay. So we use this T-72 being shot by another T-62 for an example. So your front armor's a 14. Let's just say you're more than 16 inches away. So that means you gain an extra armor. So you go to armor 15 instead because you're long range, so there's not as much velocity. coming down. Now let's just say it was being shot by a gun of AT-21. So you're looking at a 14 versus a 21. You go to 15 for range, and then you roll a dice as an armor save.
So
And
it'd
you
be a
add,
6 up armor save.
hold on, let me get there first. So when you roll the dice, you add whatever the number of the dice is to the armor, and that is your defense. So the only way for you to tie a 21 coming in to your 15 for long range is a 6. If you don't roll a 6, that means they penetrated and they can roll firepower. If you tie, that means they have a chance to bail you out. So that means if they make the firepower, you're bailed out. If they fail your firepower, you're fine. Nothing happens. If you are within 16 inches, you don't gain that extra armor, and that just automatically penetrates. You don't even roll a dice because the most you can add to your armor is a 1, a 6, or below for the dice roll.
Okay, so after shooting, we moved to artillery.
Yeah. Well, artillery happens in the same step as shooting, but they separated it so that way you can see the differences instead of just trying to shoot, instead of having artillery inside the shooting. But they
Yeah.
separated it, and usually people do artillery afterwards. The only thing that has to happen first is smoke bombardments. If you're going to shoot a smoke bombardment, that has to be the first thing before you do any of your shooting for the shooting step. Smoke must happen first. But outside of that, most people do artillery after the shooting step.
So what are the benefits of smoke?
Smoke
Yeah.
makes you harder to hit. If it's a smoke bombardment, it blocks shooting completely, except for you can see about 4 inches through, or 6 inches, I believe. Yeah, blocks line of sight except for 6 inches. So it's like you being stuck in deep woods.
Okay.
But if it's just somebody shooting smoke at you, it just adds a +1 to hit. But a smoke bombardment lower lessens the light of sight, and it makes it harder to shoot through. Also,
Okay. So say this particular round we're doing some assaulting. Uh, what about that? What do I need to know? What do
so
I
after
need
you're
to
done,
know about assaulting?
so if you're going to assault, you can't have moved more than 10 inches. You have to shoot a moving rate of fire. So let's just say you're already within range. You're 4 inches to assault, and you didn't even move. Even if you So when you do go into assault, like for let's just say a Panzer Grenadier, for an example, has a rate of fire of 3.2, and he didn't move, but he's already in assault range. He can't shoot his full rate of fire if he wants to assault. So that means he has to shoot his moving rate of fire even if he didn't move. So you check to see that you're within 4 inches, and when you're going into the assault, anybody within 6 inches that can see your target can also defensive fire, and they become defending teams, even if they're not the ones being assaulted. If they're within 8 inches of one of the assaulting teams coming in, they get the ability to fire. And all shots for vehicles go to on their side armor. Doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's all side shots.
So is that the general phases then?
Well, after you're done assaulting, then you either find out if you won or you didn't win. Then you consolidate. And after that is usually when you end your turn and pass it off to your opponent. And then your opponent then goes to the top of the reference page and checks all their morale or reinforcements and victory conditions.
And then we start it all over again.
Yep.
And it's just that the entire uh each turn.
Yep.
Is there anything else that is generally confusing or can be difficult?
It's just takes practice, making sure you do the same thing every single time, and keeping your reference cards and unit cards within within close distance. That way, you can constantly check them, and eventually, you won't have to check them after playing a couple games. You'll eventually learn what you need to do. But for your first game, I would recommend printing out this reference card and keeping your unit cards.
Now, something you always do for me is you make sure that my unit cards, there's a screen grab of my unit cards on the back of my army list.
Yes, but that makes it easier and it's all in one spot for you. You're a little
Challenged?
yes. That is a good word to put for that one. Like I used to give you unit cards, but then you would get mad because you didn't know what unit card went where. So I just printed them all on one page, so that way you didn't have to try to flip through them and figure out what unit card was actually what unit card.
That's because when I have 5 different things that look like infantry, I have to figure out which infantry goes where.
Hence why I put it on the back of the of page.
It's accommodations to learn the game. He's very patient about this. Is there anything else that a new player needs to generally understand um, before playing their game?
Um, the rules take you don't have to understand the rules completely the first time you play. Um, I still forget things a lot. Um, it it takes a lot of practice, a lot of games, and a lot of heartache of learning that you forgot one minor rule here or there. But generally, for new guys, you don't really have to worry about it too much. Once you get the general understanding of how a turn works, you can start learning the smaller rules here and there as you play more games. But generally, just look at that reference card whenever you don't know what to do next or need help with understanding what's going on. That reference card in the back of the rule book that you get will be your biggest help for your first 10 or 15 games until you've completely memorized it. Because once you do it a couple turns, you'll get the general feel for the flow of the game.
And I think having conversations with your opponent, like, "Hey, can you explain this to me?" Or just talking with your opponent to work through the little things here or there that might cause confusion or you might not necessarily be as confident about. Um, Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Um, our shows are doing very well at this point. And we're excited for things that we can do that we're doing coming up. Masters is also coming up soon. So keep a lookout for fresh Masters content for um Flames of War 2022 Masters.
Season ends in about 2 days. So if you have any last tournaments, now is the weekend. Friday is your last day if you want to get a tournament in for the season.
This won't be out for like 2 weeks.
I know. But the day we're recording, you got 2 days. So any new tournaments you put in will be for next year's season. But
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day. Press all the fun buttons.